Welcome back. For today's Business Matters, we have Don Ma here with us. How are you doing, Don? What's happening today?
Doing well, Chris. Fiona, good to see you guys. So yeah, a lot to go through today, so let me get started on that right away. But let me just make a quick mention here that we've taken on a new format here for the business show. We've merged with NTD's newsroom. You can also see me on NTD News Today. So please subscribe to the NTD News YouTube channel or go to ntd.com to see the latest content. All right, let's get on to today's financial news. Markets just closed down on Wall Street. It looks to be a mixed day all around, as you can see right here. The NASDAQ ending in the green, up 0.2%. S&P 500 ending almost exactly flat here, and the Dow shedding over 0.3%. So big movers today. Chipmaker Nvidia advancing 4%, but bad news on the other hand for gas prices. The price of U.S. crude oil rising over 3% today. The U.S. is sending more military force to the Middle East. Meanwhile, all economic eyes now on inflation data coming out later this week. We'll keep you informed on that. All right, U.S. federal debt is continuing to grow here. The U.S. government recorded a $244 billion budget deficit for July. It's up about 10% from a year earlier. So the Treasury is saying that last month's deficit climbed $23 billion. Although the deficit is increasing, federal revenue went up as well. July receipts were $330 billion. This is up 20% from a year earlier. But you know, if you account for delayed tax payments, the increase would have been around 12%. But overall, this year government spending fell, the deficit falling 6% in the first 10 months of the 2024 fiscal year. And let me mention this too. Chevron announcing it has achieved a technological breakthrough. In an industry first, it produced oil from a U.S. Gulf of Mexico field under extreme subsea pressures. It's a $5.7 billion project, and it ushers in an era of production from deep water areas that had previously long been off limits. So here, Chevron and partner Total Energies expect the project to produce for about 30 years, and at its peak, it's going to pump up to 75,000 barrels of oil and 28 million cubic feet of natural gas a day. Okay, moving on. 3 in 5 Americans believe that the economy is currently in a recession, and this is according to a recent survey from buy now, pay later service provider Affirm. According to the survey of 2,000 people, inflation and the rising cost of living tops the list of reasons why respondents believe the U.S. is in a recession. Now, on average, respondents who feel this way believe the recession started over 15 months ago, but officially speaking, the U.S. is currently not in a recession. Meanwhile, a research published today by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco shows that U.S. families are facing shrinking cash cushions. That could pose a risk to consumer spending, which is important because that is the backbone of the economy. All right, some people are going to have to find a new place to get in shape, and that is because Blink Fitness, a low-priced gym chain, filed for bankruptcy today. The company said that it may be also being forced to close some locations. Blink, which has monthly membership as low as $15 per month, is owned by Equinox. This is a group that owns luxury gyms. It currently has more than 400,000 club members. Roughly 25% of gyms and studios did in fact shut down permanently during the COVID-19 pandemic, and this is according to the Health and Fitness Association. All right, and as well, the biggest shakeup in a century. Realtors nationwide are bracing for major changes in how they do business, and it could impact you. On August 17th, new rules will take effect that overhaul the way real estate agents get paid. It's part of a $418 million settlement announced in March by the National Association of Realtors, and the changes scrap informal rules that propped up the industry's traditional payment structure. Up until now, home sellers typically had to pay a 5 or 6% commission, but going forward, buyers' agents must discuss their compensation upfront, and they will have to enter into a written agreement with a prospective home buyer before touring a property together. And this agreement is designed to inform buyers that they are responsible for paying their own realtors if a seller chooses not to cover the cost. Okay, big strike at America's ports, and it is possible as labor negotiations hit an impasse. A mass shortage of goods, more inflation, and the upcoming election all at stake. Let's now have more details on this story.
A massive port strike looms as negotiations between maritime workers and their employers hit an impasse. The dispute is between the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance. The workers have repeatedly threatened to strike. Key issues are salaries and automation.
They want to use semi-automation to reduce the number of longshoremen. And like my dad always says about semi-automation, it's just another avenue to eventually go fully automated.
ILA executive Dennis Daggett said last year there's a major disconnect between the two sides. That disconnect continues to this day. If they were to strike,
it could be terrible. You would have a very dramatic change in our ability to move goods, and this would actually impact trade, not just on the East and Gulf Coast, but globally, because ships would start backing up, you would have delays.
Shipping expert Sal Mercogliano said we could see a literal standstill in some ports.
This will have consequences on the shelves of Costco, Costco wholesale, Target, Home Depot, et cetera, Walmart.
Maritime expert Rockford Whites says it would disrupt the holiday shopping season, including Christmas, as well as the upcoming presidential election.
It would lead to price inflation for those goods that are in short supply, which is sort of the last thing the Biden-Harris administration wants during a presidential election year.
Whites says this gives more negotiating power to the workers and pressures the U.S. Maritime Alliance. If no deal is reached by September 30th, the strike begins October 1st.
And this is also important happening today. The federal government says that it is tired of lengthy unsubscribe processes that waste Americans' precious time. Let's now go to NTD's Sean Marshall, who has info about the Biden administration's new Time is Money plan.
The federal government wants to make it easier for Americans to hit the unsubscribe button for unwanted memberships and recurring payment services. A new Time is Money plan seeks to get rid of the unnecessary headaches and hassles to people's days that degrade their quality of life. These lengthy processes are nothing new for Americans. Being forced to wait on hold just to get a refund, the hopes and hurdles of canceling a gym membership, and the often complicated process of dealing with health insurance companies. But the government says these annoyances don't just happen by accident. It says companies often deliberately design their business processes to be time-consuming or otherwise burdensome for consumers, making attempts to deter them from getting a rebate or refund someone is due, or canceling a subscription or membership they no longer want, all with the goal of maximizing profits. Some of the key actions going forward include making it easier to cancel subscriptions and memberships, allowing you to submit health claims online, and cracking down on customer service phone call doom loops, in which customers are sent through a maze of menu options and automated recordings. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And I'll say this again, European shares started the week positively as investors awaited U.S. inflation data and another European key data point. Recession fears last week sparked global sell-offs, but better than expected U.S. jobs data has calmed investors.
U.S. inflation figures for July are on the program. The overall rate is expected to remain at 3%, and the core rate, which excludes food prices and food prices, is expected to fall from 3.3% to 3.2%. If this materializes, it could give the markets a positive boost.
German analyst Tim Ochesner said the lower than expected U.S. jobless claims means the U.S. labor market appears stronger than recently assumed. He also confirmed the situation on Germany's stock market index, DAX, has calmed down. While it's a positive start to the week, he advises investors to remain patient and steady. Now, with that having said, that's about all the major things that has happened today. Chris, back to you.
Thank you, Don. I love the news segment.
All right, be back here tomorrow.